I'm Kid Recordings label founder and artist manager Craig Roseberry, and you're watching The Artist Forum.
Welcome to the Artist Forum. I'm your host, Joelle Poole. Our guest today is a jack of many trades, and that's an understatement. He is the founder of Kid Recordings, he's a singer, songwriter, producer, and journalist. Please help me welcome Craig Roseberry.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad to have you.
It's nice to be had. I like being had. That's fantastic.
Just give our audience just a summary of your background. It's
like
amazing.
the briefest summary
it
that I
doesn't have
could
to be
do?
brief, just it's amazing, and we'd love to hear it.
Well, it's complicated just because I've done a lot of things. But,
Yes.
I would say that first, since we've been speaking somewhat about just the label itself, so Kid Recordings kind of stems from out of my management company, which is Shifty Entertainment. And I manage a lot of artists. I started the management company in '98. And I manage everyone from Yoko Ono, Lydia Rhodes, Richard Morel, Vanessa Dow, Betty Black, and the list kind of goes on. And the label sort of grew out of our, I would say maybe that desire to kind of control the music not just the music, but kind of the creative output that we wanted to do, and have ownership and control of everything that we do. So with the artists that are on my label, especially the ones that I manage, it's a huge cooperative. It's a where everyone has ownership of their own material, because I just thought that was really important. But how I got into music, oh gosh,
Here we go.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey, and I think it all stems mostly from really working, and not even just the working part, but going to clubs and being a club kid. And I grew up in New York's club scene and the whole downtown art scene as well. So, old clubs like Danceteria and the Mud Club and, the Tunnel and Paradise Garage, and so that list kind of goes on. And I was very much a part of all of that. And when I was in college, I grew up here, went to college here, went to NYU.
Okay.
And when I was in college, I decided to start, I had like my little group of friends, and we wanted to be able to do a sort of series of kind of alternative parties. We're all part of the kind of the alternative music scene. And we wanted to do a party that just was something that we would actually want to pay to go to.
Okay.
Like, can we have a party that we want to go to?
That's honest enough.
Yeah, so we started doing that, and first parties that we were doing, they were called Purgatory. So we had Purgatory, Damnation, Stigmata.
Wait a minute.
You just go with that thought.
Okay.
It's as crazy as it sounds. And it was a fusion of sort of mixing just the normal sort of club scene, just dancing, but it also had performance art. We did lots of crazy films and plays, and had lots of live shows as well. So it was really, really unique, and it was a fun experience. And so that is kind of how I really get introduced into the notion of this, like, art, music and art and all of that can actually be a career for me. I mean, I knew it was a career for other people, but I was just a guy who was throwing parties and who enjoyed his parties. And in that, I met a lot of people who worked at labels, and there was one young woman, and she used to come to our parties all the time, and she had asked me if I ever thought about working at a record label. And I'm like, well, what would I do? I don't know anything about the music business. She's like, you run a party, so you do marketing, you do promotion, you do publicity because you get people to come to your party. She said, so you actually are in the music business, you just don't realize it.
Right.
And so she introduced me to some friends who introduced me to another friend. I got a job at Warner Brothers, and then from Warner Brothers, I kind of went to RCA, and that started it. And then I ended up working at an independent label called CNS Records, and that's kind of, I kind of came in as kind of the marketing guy, but I ended up running the label. So I learned how to do everything, which was really good. I mean, it was frustrating because I didn't have training, but I just learned how to do everything.
On-the-job experience.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way that you have to do it. You have to cut your teeth, and you have to make mistakes. You have to get screwed over. I mean, a lot about this business, unfortunately, is you don't learn unless you get screwed.
Right.
You know, so you just, but each time that you get screwed, you learn how, well, I won't get screwed that way again. So I just kind of move forward. And
resiliency.
Yeah,
you just,
well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I'm not the kind of person that takes no for an answer. I'm very sort of determined and, I guess, you know, obnoxious, one could say. I mean, I don't know.
No,
I mean,
you have to be determined.
You have to be to some degree, and I'm very focused when there's stuff that I'm really passionate about and that I want to do. And I've never fit really neatly into any box, and so I always felt that I had the ultimate freedom to do whatever I wanted to. It was like I was never black. I was always too black for white people, not black enough for black people, too gay for straights, but not gay enough for the gays. So I was always somewhere in this sort of gray area. And I realized that actually is where most people exist. Most people exist in gray, and most of the artists that I've always been very attracted to and always wanted to work with and wanted to emulate and and that were kind of in many ways, I guess they were they were all the ones who kind of like inspired me to even want to do this in the first place. They all existed in this kind of gray, nebulous area. And so I just followed with that. And then that just kind of brings me to here. And I guess in between there, I was a journalist and I still write as well, and you know, for magazines, and because I enjoy that. I actually enjoy writing.
Right.
And then in between there, I was a performance artist as well, so I was singing and writing songs, and I was just kind of doing that whole thing like everybody else. I was just kind of swept into that with everybody else. So I guess that's always, it's never changed for me, really. It's just been that. I'm more the business person now, but I still do everything. I mean, I have records that I put out as well, of my own stuff, or collaborations that I do with a lot of artists, and it's been fun. It's a ride, but there's still so much more to do.
No, you are amazing, and the fact that he can glaze over, I through this event with art, music, film, video, all in one, that's nothing. And then I went to this label and I took over in marketing manager. I mean, that's amazing. I had no idea even how to define you, but I think that your story honestly is inspiring, you know, like that gray area that you're talking about, and just being able to tap into what we're all familiar with. I think that's an amazing aspect, and that's what makes you so unique and so great. And hearing your story that, you know, you was in the club, you didn't exactly know what you wanted to do. You kind of honed in on your talents. And I think that, you know, when we all hear stories about successful people, we want to hear this. It's inspiring. It tells you to trust your gut and to chase your dreams. And that's what I'm hearing from you. You trust your gut, you go with your talents. And
definitely.
You've been able to have success across many fields, you know, not just one. Like,
yes, it's funny because it doesn't, when you're in it, it doesn't feel that way until you have, like, you know, listen, I thank God that I've had the opportunity to, you know, to live this bloody long, to be able to, to live this long, to be able to say that I can look back now and say, wow, you know, I did these things, and I wasn't really conscious of many of the things that I was doing. I was just having fun. And also too, it's a different time. It was a different time. Like, you know, New York was really fun, and it was dark and dingy and cheap and fantastic, and you could live at the end of your imagination, and you could still afford to live here. Right. It changes things a bit when sort of the economics of a place dictate more like how you have to live, and that defines in the ways that you have to be, how you can afford to be creative. You know, I could, you know, my rent sometimes was like $500.
Oh, don't even say it.
You know what I mean? And we'd have like 12 people living in an apartment, so everyone's paying like $80 a month. And be like, oh, okay, that's that. So then you have lots of room to be, you know, free and create, because you don't have the stress of bills or rent and all that. So I think that, you know, when you're young, if you have any idea of anything that you want to do, and it doesn't necessarily have to be creative either, it can be whatever thing you find interesting, it's just pursue it and try to, you know, sort of spread yourself as much as you can, and experience things, because you never know what direction you're gonna end up in. And I think also too, traveling is really important in that as well. I traveled a lot, and so, because it was cheap. It was cheap to travel. We used to go to, every weekend we would go to like London or Paris, because it was, like, I did 2 parties a week. So, and I had 2 jobs, because I'm West Indian, honey. I have like, I have 95 jobs. I'm always working. So, so I made enough money. So it only cost for students, if you were under 22, it was only like $200, $300 round trip to England.
So you're going every weekend.
So every weekend.
How did that, because I feel like just leaving the country, period, can change your perception on music, creativity. How did that influence you, and even like in developing your artist or music selection?
Oh, big time. I mean, I think, most of the music that I loved in the first place was, most of it was coming from out of Europe anyway. So I was like, I need to be there. Like, that is where, like, everything I love is there. So I need to be as comfortable there as I am here.
Right.
Like, I want to know as many people, in all the different cities or the different countries that I really found fascinating. I would just go and make friends, and just, and many of those friends that I made from, what is this now? Is this like 30 years ago almost at this point, which is crazy. But
can't tell.
Yeah, a lot of, well, good. I shaved, cut the gray out. But I think that, a lot of those friends that I made then, it's the same thing like when I first went to college. Those first people I met, I would say in those first 2 or 3 months, and those first people that I meet whenever I go to a different city, they tend to be the people that have been in my life the longest. Yeah. That I still have relationships with those people, and they're some of the most important relationships in my life. And also, sort of like this sort of pre 9/11 world, it was so easy to travel. There was very little hassle. I didn't have any issues, especially being, a minority, Black guy traveling, to different places. And I was, very rarely was I ever stopped. I mean, there was, 1 or 2 times. One time in Germany, which was not pleasant, but whatever. And then one time actually coming back into the States, like, they hauled me off into a room and gave me the full search, rubber glove and all. It was terrible. But outside of that, I had no issues. It was just really easy for me, and I was a really good student. So, like, what I would do is I would try to tie things together. If I knew I wanted to be in Spain or in England, or like for, say, a long period of time, I would just, get into an exchange program. I was like, oh, just go in the exchange program, stay for a half a year, come back to New York on the weekends to do the party, and then go back and go to school, then come back, and I had energy. I couldn't do that now.
I think this is really important, that in hearing your story, I feel like you're giving, even just in your story, giving so much advice. One is like, follow your passion. 2 is
definitely.
You have to be resilient. Open your eyes, open your experiences to travel. You're saying that, a lot of your first interactions and contacts, you still are in strong connection with today, have strongly impacted your career. These are all like amazing things. I think that they're things that people definitely need to hear, and
Well, back then too, there were very little, we didn't have the same types of distractions. Right. And, there's a lot to be said about really having, real-time relationships. Like, knowing people via Facebook is not a real relationship. Right. Knowing people just because you have Twitter followers, those are not your friends. Right. They don't really care. Right. It doesn't really matter. You have to realize that just because we have all of this social media, it actually doesn't make us more social. It keeps us further apart, because we do that more than doing this, like us being in real time and in present time. So, and none of that was the case then. We also knew how to wait for things. Because it's like, if you would hear that your favorite, a record from your favorite artist was coming out, and you'd know about it, say, like a month in advance. You'd read about it in all the different magazines, and you had to wait. You had to wait for it to come. And then when you got it, you sat and you took the time to just sit and absorb this entire album, as opposed to buying a track and, and listen. You know what I mean? So it just was different. I think that if you are more, if you learn to be more patient, and if you learn to, kind of just that everything that you want to do takes like baby steps. Right. You have to do baby steps to the big steps. If you can sort of absorb that as a concept and realize that that's kind of how real life really works, then I think there's no end to what you can do. You can do anything. You know, there is no real time limit. You don't have to, there's no such thing that you have to do something by a certain time, except for things like, you know, if you want to have kids. There is a bit of
yes.
a, you
There's
want to
a
have
biological
kids,
clock.
Yeah, there's a biological clock. There's you know, there's a physicality that you have to deal with. But outside of that, you can kind of do whatever you want, whenever you want. You know, you don't have to feel limited.
So that kind of leads me to my next question of your current projects and who you're working with now, and also that there has been or have been so many changes in the music industry, like turnaround for music, as you were saying, the need for music, accessibility to artists, and or their songs and personal lives. So I just want to hear a little bit about what your current projects and how you've adjusted to the newer generation.
Well, I mean, I've actually learned to become really good with sort of social media, like in terms of like SoundCloud and Facebook. I mean, my Facebook is fun just because I like educating. To me, I use Facebook more to educate and to, and I'm, you know, I'm funny, so I like to make people laugh. I like to also outrage people, so any kind of thing that's gonna make people upset, like I love that. And just gonna get comments. So like working Facebook and all that stuff has been great. That's been fun. But I still do everything fairly organically. I don't really, I mean, I hire, you know, for whatever releases that I'm putting out, especially from some of my bigger artists, you know, we have publicists and we have, you know, it's the kind of a slightly more traditional way of doing things. But we do spend a good amount of time on sort of social media and doing press and doing videos and all that, because we all kind of pool in our efforts, and we've got lots of friends, and we just kind of, you know, it's like glue and tape, and we make things happen. But, you know, I'm still a bit, I guess, kind of old school in that sense. I think that first and foremost, it's about the quality of music, you know, and I like to work with musicians, you know, not just someone who's just a programmer. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I want more dimension in the artists that I kind of look for, which is why I tend to work with the people that I've worked with. But I have, almost all my artists right at the moment are working on new material. So I have, you know, there'll be new stuff from Lydia Rhodes. There'll be new stuff from my group called, that's on the label called Allies for Everyone. There's going to be a new there's a couple of new Betty Blac singles that lead up to her new mini album, which is called Valley Low. So we've already released the first track, which is Come Back Lover. There's going to be another single called Heartless, and then Addicted to Life. So there's those things coming. I have a group called Night Riders from out of Boston, an incredibly talented duo. They're, you know, producer DJs, but also sort of multi-instrumentalists. I'm like, I can't talk right now. And so they have a new record coming out as well. And then I have a group called Auto Magic, which is, there's a really wonderful DJ out here called DJ Will Auto Magic. And he DJs a whole bunch of parties here in New York as well as overseas. And his partner, Brian Keller, who's a fantastic songwriter and musician. And they've done a song with Nadia Davenport from Brand New Heavies. Oh. And it's called Music in My Mind. So we put out the first part. Now we're putting out sort of the next round of mixes. There will be a new Vanessa Dow single, which is called Love is War, from her new album Light Sweet Crude. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Like, I can
gosh,
rattle off.
I'm trying to rattle off these.
So many artists, and I can say firsthand, one, just seeing Lydia Rhodes' clip of her performance, that was amazing. It's so full of energy. Like you said, the organic aspect, that's something that you just don't see anymore.
No.
You could see the energy, feel the energy through the camera. I was
cool.
Personally at Vanessa Dow's performance.
That was awesome, right? That was fun.
Amazing.
That was fun.
She definitely has a new fan.
Her first show. That was her first show in New York since '96.
And I don't believe it.
It's insane.
I don't believe it.
It's insane. Yeah.
It was very intimate. I mean, her songs were different and flowed and authentic. It was amazing. So I'm actually really interested to see. I understand we have a clip from Betty Blac.
Yes.
With her new single.
Yes, we're Come Back Lover.
Come Back Lover. Okay. Yep. So we're gonna view a clip from Betty Blac, Come Back Lover. That was an amazing clip. She's very talented, and that's obviously going to be a hit. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, there's a different blend of sounds. Yes, is there anything you want to say about her? I mean,
yeah, Sylvia is an incredible artist. She's an incredible bass player as well as a multi-instrumentalist. And she was from a really sort of seminal, sort of dark underground electronic pop group here in New York called Kudu, along with her partner, D'Anthony Parks, who's a really well-known established drummer, and he's worked with everyone from Mars Volta and Red Hot Chili Peppers and John Cale and Michelle Ndegeocello. And they had this band, and so when they sort of, not like broken up, but sort of took a pause on that, she wanted to sort of go and do her own music. And so Betty Blac is the product of her doing her own music. But she's also a really great songwriter. So she's written, she's worked with a lot of artists from Moby and Telepop Music, but her biggest record is Meet Me Halfway from Black Eyed Peas. She co-wrote that.
Wow.
And, so she's done really well for herself as just, as a real sort of working singer-songwriter. And then from, the money that we make from that, we've poured it into, her solo career and doing, focusing on, getting the music the way she wants it to be done and having her image that she controls and that she can, direct how she wants to be seen and how she wants to be heard, because she's incredibly talented. So I'm just fortunate to be able to have worked with her for as long as I have, and to have her in my life as a great friend, and to be able to work with her on the label. It's fantastic.
The artistic freedom and expression is definitely visible in all of your artists. They're all so talented, so different.
Thank you.
It's a great roster to have.
I appreciate that.
Yes, and sincerely.
I appreciate that.
So if our audience wants to find out more about Kid Recordings, the artists, your coming up projects, how do they do that?
Okay, they can find us on Facebook. It's just Kid Recordings at Facebook, on Facebook. They can find us on SoundCloud, and it's Kid Outsider. It's like Outsider-Kid Recordings on SoundCloud. They can find me on Facebook, which is just at Facebook, Twitter, at Kid Recordings. That's me. And you can always drop me a note there, or drop me a note on Facebook. I always pay attention to everything that everyone writes and try to write back to everyone if they've got any questions or if they send demos. And I do try to listen to everything. It may take me a little while to get back, but I do respond to everybody. It's challenging, but I do. Because I wanted people to respond to me when I was, when I was just starting. So I have to pay that forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate your time,
all
the knowledge that you've dropped, the talent that you showed today. I'm Joelle Poole. See you next time on The Artist Forum.